Is Riot in the process of killing another agent in Valorant? Well, today we're going to talk about Brimstone, the main man. Because here's the thing, Brimstone exists in a very unique position in Valorant. Whilst his overall pick rate tends to hover somewhere between like 10 and 15% at the highest levels, it's all concentrated in just one map. And that map is Bind. And what this means, of course, is, yeah, Brim is pretty good on Bind, but if any other agent and controller was able to come about and supplant Brimstone on Bind, his pick rate would effectively be 0%. Now, there is another map that Brim has been pretty good on historically, and that, of course, is Fracture. But considering that Riot seems to hate Fracture for some reason and refuses it to bring back into the map pool, despite the fact that it is definitely one of the best maps in the pool, I don't care if you disagree, fight me, it seems that if Brim is to get replaced on Bind, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And you see, recently there was a development that I think could threaten Brimstone on Bind and mean that he could be in a lot of trouble. And that, of course, was the buff to Astra. A very simple buff. Simply, Astra went from 4 back to 5 stars. But I'll explain why this is a big problem, and already we're seeing some of the early signs, some of the first teams who are playing this in real games, some of the Game Changers teams have already started to try the Astra on Bind. Well, let's talk about Astra on Bind and why this could be a pretty big deal. And you can see here, this is our comp that one of the Game Changers teams in LATAM is playing. And you can see we've got the Astra here. They're actually playing ISO as well, which I thought was quite an interesting little unique twist here. But what we've got here is the normal Astra setup that they went for pretty much every round, where we've got 3 stars across the map, right? And I'll talk about why this is important and why this is a big deal that Astra got that 5th star. Because here's the thing, by doing these 3 stars all the way across the map, you can create pressure in 3 of the 4 lanes, right? You can create pressure in any of these places that you go to, and there's a myriad of ways that you could use these stars, and pretty much every single round they started with these 3 stars up, right? So every single round looks the same, but there's a ton of different things that you can potentially do with it, right? You could turn, for instance, this here into an actual smoke, right? And just walk up here if you wanted to. You could potentially just have it be a recall star and have it as a little fake, or it could be a recall star to potentially help you cross as well. So you have multiple options just there alone. Or of course, what you could do is turn one of these stars into an Astra Sock or a stun and be part of some bigger trap play like you're gonna see they do in this round.
Para poder ayudar al cierre de ese site. Fue fenomenal. Tenemos el 3-4, una partida que está parejísima.
So whilst this doesn't quite come off perfectly, you can see the intent and the idea, right? We get the ISO vulnerable in there with the Astra Sock. It is maybe a little bit too slow, but if someone did fully commit down here, if someone was really trying to fight this, they'd be in a lot of trouble between a Snakebite, an Astra Suck there, and potentially getting hit by the ISO vulnerable. You know, good luck with this satcheling raise in here, you're probably going to die, right? So it didn't work this time, but you can see that the threat is there, and throughout this game they were using the stars and using those different ideas that look the same at the start of every round, but can be very different things. And of course, one thing to consider as well is obviously when you're pairing this with Viper, which you commonly will be, of course, with the common Viper setup down here on short, that means that with these 3 stars in the Viper setup, you're pressuring all 4 lanes at the start of every single round. And from the defender's point of view, there's no easy tell of what's real and what isn't. But getting that 5th star back for Astra was very, very important, and this round will give you a good example as to why.
Muy lento y fue como que Fusion no estaba acostumbrado a eso y la sufrió bastante de ese lado. Así que este ritmo de juego le viene muy bien, esta velocidad de esta corridita, y bueno, la está pasando bárbaro. Al igual que acá, de 5-4, partida peleadísima. Se pone muy interesante, es una ronda para cada uno, quieren llegar a pasar pero no se ve nada, levantan las jaulas.
So you might be wondering what the hell am I on about, but if we take a look at what happens here on the map, we're going to end up with that same Astra 3 stars placed. You can see 1 here, 2 over towards B, again normal kind of stuff that we saw before. But of course you might have said, hey TMV, you could do this with Astra anyway before the buff, right? Like you could have just done this if you wanted to anyway. But what you couldn't have done before, and this is crucial, is that if you wanted to then go for a fast play off the rip after doing this setup every single round, you couldn't, because you'd only have 1 star left, right? And you can't enter a site with only 1 smoke. But now you've got 2 stars. So if you wanted to do this kind of same play where they go for this kind of aggressive play down towards showers, you've now got 2 stars to actually put down full smokes. Even though you've recalled both of these, it doesn't matter. You got 2 stars left. In we go. we've got 2 smokes, right? And yeah, I'm going to end up with 2 stars later on as well because I've recalled both the ones on B. But this is true for either side, of course, right? We can do an exec towards A fast if we want to after that kind of default setup, or we can do on B as well and just put the smokes here, right? And so that's where that extra star kind of matters so much, because beforehand you would have had to wait, for the recall timer. You know, you can't do a kind of fast exec after that kind of setup pressuring across the map. Now you just can, right? Now we're just on the site right here straight away, and so we can create pressure throughout the map and, you know, straight away if we want to still go for that fast exec, which means from a defender's perspective, you have no idea what's going to happen in this round with this Astra, right? There are so many different things that they could do, and of course, as people and teams are getting better at playing the game, I'm sure that some creative team will probably say, yeah, we can do a bunch of different stuff and just keep you on your toes by playing Astra rather than Brim. And on the defensive side as well, Astra can really play into a main way that you want to play Bind on the defense side, which is some of these aggressive kind of trap plays.
De todas maneras, estaba preparado Monkey Monchi para hacer el defuseo sin pedirle permiso. Una locura de rondón salvado de parte de Acabe con esa desventaja numérica. Lo ha hecho perfecto. Vamos a ver ahora, porque Acabe consigue una ronda que también es importante. ¿Por qué? Le quitó las armas a Fusion X que tenía. Su ronda de contras fuertes. Vamos a ver la reacción de este lado. La van a recibir con carga pero rebotó mal. Parece que rebotó mal y claro que no, es que le devolvían con la misma. Ahí estaban entonces ahora sí la defensa predominante.
So again, we see a nice use of this kind of idea with the ISO and Astra as well, right? Using the vulnerable. It is interesting to me that obviously the Astra suck, you know, compared to like a really old Astra, right? The Astra suck would kind of be instantaneous as soon as you did it. Now it kind of has a bit of a wind up. It does make me think for these kind of trap plays where, you know, we're going to get the vulnerable, for instance, from an ISO anyway. We're going to throw the raise nade, which is quite nice in there. Obviously they come back with their own raise nade here, but I do started to wonder, like, maybe if this was a stun instead of an Astra suck, maybe that would be a bit better. I don't know, because the stun just goes off that bit quicker, and we are already kind of, you know, trying to vulnerable them, so that aspect of it is already done. So that did make me think, you know, whether the right bit of utility was used here. But then the follow-up here is also really nice, right? To then send the Skydog through the TP after this kind of trap play, you know, doesn't quite find what it wants to. You then send the dog through here as well. Which is really nice, you know, confirming that this player is here. We managed to get the kill. We managed to get out. We're in a 5v4. We're in a good spot. And of course, one of the major benefits of Astra in general when playing controller on Bind is that you can help both sides. This is a different game here where a team is actually playing solo Astra with no Viper in here as well. And again, if you were playing solo Brim on Bind, one of probably the key problems you're going to have is that, you know, you never really want Brim on any extremity ever. Right? Because if the opponent then starts an exec, you're not going to be able to smoke this off if you're on the other side of the map, right? With a Brim. But obviously with Astra, that doesn't really matter, right? You can play potentially a solo Astra if you don't want to play Viper. I personally would say, you know, just play Viper anyway. What are you doing? Viper on Bind is crazy, but you can do this kind of thing, right? You can do this kind of smoke from anywhere on the map. It doesn't matter, which means again that you can be more multiple in how you want to play your agents. You can do that kind of thing, and as you see here, it can go pretty well for you. And so look, Riot already confirmed that Harbor is going to get some kind of buff, which I think is great. We know that Omen is going to be pretty good. We know that Astra with 5 stars is going to probably be pretty good. Viper's still definitely going to have a place in the game. Clove is still a bit of a ranked agent, and that's fine, right? But Brim, I think, will struggle, because now with the addition of Clove as well, if you want a kind of simple smoke agent to play in ranked, go for Clove, right? Over Brim. That makes sense. So if Astra does start replacing, I mean, even 50% of Brim's pick rate on Bind, we're looking at an agent who doesn't really have a place in the game. And so Brim as well, alongside Harbor, might also need some work if that's the direction that we're going in.